Kia ora everyone, and welcome back to another video in our wellness series. My name is Olivia and I'm the National Content Coordinator for the Manchester Unity Members Forum. And today I'm joined by Sofian from Shaking Minds, and we're going to be talking all about lasting change. So I'll hand it over to Sofian to introduce himself and what we're going to be chatting about today.
Hi everyone, and thank you very much, Olivia, for the introduction. My name is Sofian and I'm the founder of Shaking Minds. The purpose of Shaking Minds is to create a positive impact in people's life, right? So I hope that you know me by now. We've been recording quite a lot of video for all of you guys at Manchester Unity. And so today what I want to talk about is how to create a lasting change. One of the things that my clients, when they come to see me, is basically they kind of struggle with how to create a change that lasts. Most of the time they're going to have an idea. It's going to work for maybe, a few weeks, maybe a month or two. And then at some point they're just going to be like, it's completely going to drop. So I want to give you some tips on how to create a lasting change today. All right. So let's jump straight away into that. Okay. So here, just draw like a little thing on how to show you how to get a lasting change. So basically it's like kind of a 4 steps process. Okay. So the very first important thing when you want to create a lasting change, and we're going to define that as being your goal. So let's say that this is you right here and you're going to get on the journey to create a lasting change. Before you get on that journey, you need to understand 2 things. First of all is, what is the change that you want to make? And second of all, why do you want to make that change? Okay? So the what and the why is extremely important, because when we talk about what do we want to change, there's only 2 options. Either because you want to try to avoid pain, or you want to try to move towards pleasure. Okay, so you either avoid a painful situation, or you want to go with something that's going to bring more pleasure, more happiness if you prefer. So it's either one or the other. So to give you an example, if you decide to say, oh, I want to become more healthy, well, basically it's because you want to go towards the pleasure of feeling healthy. And that's the point right there, right? If you tell yourself, I want to become a little bit more wealthy, well, it's probably because you want to avoid the pain or run away from the pain of being broke all the time. Okay, so to give you an example of the 2, right? So once you have the what, I want you to think about why. Why is it the real reason you want to make that change? Do you want to become more? Do you want to become more healthy because you want to look good and you want to feel accepted, or any other reason, right? So try to pinpoint what is the real reason why you want to do it, and the why is going to be your biggest source of motivation. It should be something very competing, because if it's not competing enough, if it's not strong enough, if it doesn't motivate you, then you're going to drop. Your consistency is going to collapse if your why is not strong enough. So that very first step is extremely important. Okay, we got that to start with? Awesome. So once you have your what and your why, the first thing is to create a spark. That's the very first point that you need to start with. So think about, for you, in order to reach your goal, it's exactly the same as if you were a rocket. When the rocket is on the ground, you need to have a huge amount of force in order to propulse the rocket into the sky, right? So that's exactly what needs to happen when you want to start to create a lasting change. So creating the initial spark is gonna be the one that requires the highest amount of effort. My recommendation for this is to do what I call a full immersion. Let's say, for example, you want to become more healthy, you want to put like a big fitness program in place, something like this. What I would recommend is to do a full immersion with a coach for maybe 3 hours or maybe 3 weeks or something like this. Just really to create that very start boost that's really going to start to push you, that's going to give you all the methodology that you need to start with. And so you put yourself at 100% into that. Let's say, for example, you want to learn a new skill. Let's say that, I don't know, you want to learn how to play the piano, for example. My recommendation will be to start with a very big session with a teacher that will actually give you a lot of basic tools, a lot of different techniques, really to get yourself like to start practicing, maybe very intensively for a few days. And once you get out of it, you have lots of theory that you can practice on later on, right? So the initial spark is very important. Once you get done with your immersion time, you want to move on to the next one, which is repetition. Repetition, and more specifically, spaced repetition. So if we take the example of the piano, you started with an intensive session for about 2 or 3 days, and you have all your theory. Now, all the theory, you're going to repeat it on a regular basis, okay? The idea with spaced repetition is at the beginning, you want to repeat it at very short interval. And the more you're going to go, the longer they're going to become. And let's say, for example, you have one specific melody that you're learning on the piano. You want to repeat it every single day, maybe for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then maybe once every 2 days, once every 3 days, once every 4 days, until you're going to be able to play that melody without even thinking about it, even 10 years later. Okay, so you want to space your repetition longer and longer and longer and longer, because that's part of how your body is going to start remembering it. Okay, great. Once you get the repetition system in place, we come to something that is very important. We come to the point that I call adjustment. Basically, like I said at the beginning, going towards your goal, having to have a lasting change is like a rocket. We have the rocket that is launched in the sky right here, and then the rocket is just going up and up and up and up and up. What's going to happen is sometimes the rocket is going to go off course. You know what I mean? So basically, you need to readjust the trajectory of your rocket in order to reach your goals. So sometimes that's what it needs to happen, is maybe in your methodology, what you're doing is not effective enough. What you're doing doesn't bring you to the goal that you want to have for yourself, right? So let's say you want to learn how to play the piano, but at some point you're getting distracted by starting to play the guitar. You're going to have to readjust your trajectory because you want to reach the goal that you establish, which is playing the piano. And the why I want to play the piano is compelling enough for you. So there's a huge correlation right there between the adjustment and the what and why, because the adjustment point is sometimes where people are dropping off. Basically, as soon as they feel distracted with something, they might gonna forget the repetition, they might gonna forget everything about it, and they're just gonna go back to zero. And this is where the change doesn't last anymore. So the main reason why it doesn't last is because the why wasn't compelling enough. And because of the why is not compelling enough, you don't readjust your trajectory. Okay, so when you readjust your trajectory, you need to go back to the repetition spot, because you're creating kind of a new little routine. You've been tweaking a few details there and there. So you need to make sure that the new routine that you had go back into your repetition cycle right there, okay? And sometimes you're gonna be stuck in those two different elements for maybe quite a while, but that's okay. Because in fact, when you come back, you acknowledge there's adjustment that needs to be done. Well, basically, you kind of perfecting your recipe, if you prefer, right? So it's important to acknowledge adjustment and to take action on those adjustments and put them in your repetition cycle again. Keep on doing this until you reach your goal. That's how you're going to get to your goal, which is to create something that lasts, something that changes. Once you reach your goal, don't forget to celebrate. This is extremely important. Celebrating the fact that, you know, you've dropped, for example, 5 kg in the space of maybe 5 weeks. When you get there, you want to celebrate. Of course, the way you celebrate, try to have something that is appropriate to the goal that you set for yourself. If your goal was to lose 5 kg, of course, you're not going to celebrate by having a massive chocolate cake, because that would be kind of counterproductive, you know what I mean? But maybe you're going to be able to treat yourself to go to a spa, for example, like, you know, to have like a massage relaxation session, all that type of thing. So celebration is extremely important. We put a lot of thinking on the failure. We put a lot of value on failure. We feel that we're miserable, but we don't put enough value behind celebration. Pat yourself on the back, give yourself a high five because you've done an amazing job, and now it's time to treat yourself to something great. Okay? That's how you create a lasting change. Very simple step, and I think it's kind of mentioning the obvious, right? But what is really important is the what and the why. It has to be competing. Okay? Olivia, do you have any question about this?
Yes. How does someone get to the point where they know they want to create a lasting change? Do they, like, how do you reach that point? Is it usually an experience you go through, or is it just a goal that you're really passionate about and you're like, how can I get there?
Well, I would say the reason why people want to create a lasting change is because they kind of get sick of something in their life. You know, they kind of get sick of that thing. They keep telling themselves, I want to do this, I want to do that, and it just never happens. A very simple example would be every New Year's Eve, you have thousands, if not millions of people that says, this year I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to have like a nice body. I'm going to feel great. I'm going to have that summer body ready to go rock the beach and all of that. And then they drop and it never happens. And basically they kind of hate themselves for that. They hate themselves on the fact that they're not consistent with the goal that they set up for themselves. So I think this is really about this. It's about like, you have the desire to create a change that lasts when you're getting sick of something that you were not able to change forever, that you had forever and you've been dragging along with you like a burden, you know what I mean? And so the very key thing is about consistency, and consistency will be part of the repetition process. So yeah, good. Do you have any other question?
No, I don't. I'm just trying to process it all, and it actually is, like you mentioned, such a simple process to be able to create a significant lasting change in your life. It's really about finding what is important, the what and the why, and then really putting it into action. And I guess if you're so passionate about something, perhaps like what you mentioned, learning to play the piano, or because you're wanting to create such a different change in your life, that making it last will be possible for you because you're so passionate about it, about going after that goal or the dream or whatever it is you're trying to create.
And you know, sometimes it's about like, the thing sometimes we get to understand is the thing that we're trying to achieve, the thing that we're trying to learn are part of the process and not especially the real reason why we want to do it. For example, if we go back to the example of playing the piano might not be the goal. The goal might actually be, I want to be able to play that song for my wedding. And this will be a very compelling reason, because you project yourself playing that song on the piano at the wedding for your partner, something like this. So basically, learning how to play the piano doesn't become the final goal. It actually becomes part of the process. So it's going to be somewhere around here. But your goal could be to play a symphony on the piano. So that's why it's very important to understand the what and the why, because the why really gives you that very, very, very strong purpose why you're doing this. You want to learn a new language. What's the reason for it? Is it because you want to go there for 1 year? Yeah, then that's a different story. There's a whole world that goes around it. And what I do think is that people don't really look at the why. They throw themselves into it. They throw themselves into, okay, I want to learn the piano, or I want to learn to speak Japanese, for example. But because they don't have a defined goal that they can tick at some point, they just lose track of it. They lose track of their progress, and they lose track of how much they improve themselves over time. So extremely important is the why. Press pause for a second, think about what you're going to do, and then get on the road for that. Okay? So if you don't have any more questions, that's it for today. That's how you can create a lasting change. A final little tips on how to create a lasting change as well. When you think about the spark and when you think about the immersion process, try to find an expert. Try to find someone that you can copy, or someone that you can take advice from, someone that has the experience, or someone that already achieved what you want to achieve, and learn from them. Be in full immersion with them. Ask them all the questions that you need. Show me, how do you play that melody on the piano? What did you do to train your fingers to run so fast? What did you do to train your feet and your hands to go at a different rhythm, for example, right? And basically, you're going to learn from them, from all the experience that they built over time. So it's about trying to copy that expert. Once you copy that expert in full immersion, repetition, and finally, celebration. Okay? That's it for today for a lasting change. I wish you a really, really good day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.